Hello everyone, welcome to Nerd Geek Life. I'm your host Chris, and for today's episode in the What If series, we are gonna take a look at Thor. Now, just to make the distinction clear, I am talking about the comic book version of Thor, not the MCU version. Thor was originally sent to Earth by his father Odin because Odin felt that he needed to be taught humility. Without memories of godhood, Thor lived on Earth as a human medical student Donald Blake. After becoming a doctor, Blake witnesses the arrival of an alien scouting party while he is on vacation in Norway. Here he discovers a walking stick, and as he strikes it against a rock, he transforms into his true form of Thor. As it turned out, the walking stick was in fact his mystical hammer Mjolnir. The question we ask ourselves today is what if Odin had not sent Thor to Earth? Instead of sending Thor to Earth, Odin sent him to one of the other 9 realms or to another planet. What would have happened on Earth had Thor not been there? The first thing we have to think about is the moment that Donald Blake found out he was actually Thor. As said before, this was when he was on vacation in Norway, seeing an alien scouting party. Now this scouting party was of a species named the Kronans. Originally, from the planet Rhea, they had established a base on the planet Saturn for a planned invasion of Earth. Because their first insurgent was in Norway, it would be fair to say that it might have escaped the notice of the superhuman community at that time. With an established beachhead in Norway, the Kronans might have been able to conquer part of the planet or perhaps the planet entirely. Of course, the superhero community would have reacted eventually, perhaps even routing the aliens from the planet before too much damage was done. Let us hope that whichever hero showed up to rout the Kronans' invasion, they stuck around and formed the Avengers. Because without Thor, there would be no Avengers otherwise. In the first issue of the Avengers comic series, we see how Loki tricked Thor into attacking the Hulk. Ant-Man, Wasp, and Iron Man are then called in by Rick Jones to help stop the conflict, and pretty soon the 5 heroes find the real culprit Loki and take him on together. It is Ant-Man who suggests they keep working together to face new and challenging threats. When it comes down to it, it was Loki who actually assembled the Avengers. This would not have happened had Thor not been on Earth. Aided by the Avengers on some occasions, and completely alone on others, Thor has saved Earth many times. Battles against creatures such as the High Evolutionary, Ego the Living Planet, Absorbing Man, Radioactive Man, and the Grey Gargoyle come to mind. But also keep in mind that Thor is first and foremost a god of Asgard. And in that capacity, he has also saved Asgard on many occasions. One of the first instances that come to mind is his fight against the creature Mangog. Mangog was described as being the sum total of hatred of a billion beings. First encountered by Odin, this creature was imprisoned beneath Asgard. It was later freed by the rock troll Ulik in a failed bid to secure an ally against the gods. Mangog storms Asgard intent on drawing the Odin sword from its scabbard and using it to end the universe. Thor bells Mangog to a standstill, which gives Odin the chance to break the spell that created Mangog. Had Thor not belled Mangog, it would be a fair assumption that Odin had to get involved himself, which means he wouldn't have had the chance to break the spell. Mangog might still have been defeated and imprisoned once again, but he would still be alive to pose a threat to Asgard. You could argue that Odin would have the chance to cast a spell once Mangog was back in his prison. However, the Odin that is portrayed in the comics usually seems to exhibit a character flaw which makes him dismiss any threat that isn't right in front of him. I think it would be a fair estimate that Odin would forget about Mangog the moment he is incarcerated once again. Now let's take a look at some of the places that Thor might have ended up. One of the more known of the Nine Realms is Muspelheim. Muspelheim is a domain of Surtur. He is well known to be an enemy of all of the Norse gods, perhaps excluding Loki. Had Thor been sent to Muspelheim instead of Midgard, he would be haunted by Surtur and his minions. Although Thor is a strong character both in body and in mind, I think it would be fair to say that he would not escape capture forever. Even if he is not outright killed, a creature like Surtur would inflict unimaginable torture on the Thunder God. The same can be said had Thor been sent to the realm of Niflheim. Niflheim is ruled by the frost giant Ymir, who considers all other forms of life to be aberrations that must be destroyed. I fear that if Thor ended up here, he would face the same fate as he did in Muspelheim. Now let's talk about Kree. What if Thor got stranded on Hala? I think the answer really depends on which era of development the Kree find themselves in. If Thor would settle on Hala before it was discovered by the then peace-loving Skrulls, then perhaps the history of the Kree would be massively altered. Let's not forget that before the Kree were discovered by the Skrull, they shared the planet with the Kotati. The Kree, the Kotati, and the Skrulls were all peace-loving species. It was only after the Skrulls favored the Kotati that the Kree became a warlike race. They slaughtered the Kotati and gained the Skrulls' technology. The question we ask ourselves here is which side would Thor find himself on? If he was fighting for the Kree, perhaps the Kree would have gained the upper hand more quickly and their realm would have expanded even quicker than it has now. But what if Thor find himself on the side of the Kotati? But we have seen him take on legions of the Kree and accusers later in the comic series. At this point in the Kree's history, they would not be armored, they would have no accusers, and they would fight with primitive weapons compared to what Thor has come up against later. It is a fair assumption that Thor could tip the balance of power in favor of the Kotati, thereby removing the Kree as a major force in the galaxy at large. What about the Skrulls themselves? If Thor had landed on Skrull homeworld, he could have ended the conflict with the Kree before it had a proper start. Although it was several decades between the first Kree expedition and the emergence of the Krees as a warrior race, Thor could have helped by sharing his martial prowess and Asgard technology with the Skrulls. Even though the Kree had a technological advantage at this point, with Thor at the head of their armies, things could have gone a completely different way. It would also mean that when the Skrulls decided to invade Earth, they would do so with Thor helping them out. Things might have turned out differently for Earth's defenders had this been the case. And that concludes this little episode of What If. There has been a lot of speculation in this video. If you have any other comments or suggestions, please pop them down in the comment section below. If you like this video, consider leaving a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you want, share this video with your friends because it does help us grow. Until next time, I've been Chris from Geek Life, and I will see you all soon.